Are you ensuring that they're not being shortchanged? Because it was very worrisome, the report that our correspondent did when he went round and found out that one of the companies literally had to send workers home. They had a really large stock of meters, and there was no patronage anywhere.
I think I need to make some kind of clarification here. You know, the Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board is vested with authority for the oil and gas industry. My discussion here is the philosophies of how to develop Nigerian content in other sectors, not just the power. So those details about how the power sector and how their regulation works will be related to the Ministry of Power and NERC. We are just talking about Nigerian content, and lately we've been called in to discuss the philosophy of Nigerian content in power and in telecoms and in agriculture. That's where you have that nexus that I'm even able to talk on this issue.
But you know, even with the telecoms and the power sector, there's some challenges, even though that philosophy is operational there. Take, for instance, this one in question now. I see some words being used here. For instance, all operators and companies operating in the NSI shall employ only Nigerians in their junior and intermediate cadre or any other corresponding grades designated by the operator or company. And then it also says, all unskilled labor shall be locally sourced. It goes on to several other places where it says that the employment and training plan shall make provision for succession planning to enable Nigerians assume positions that may be occupied by expatriates. And so, so vast this is. Implementation, however.
Yeah, but that is the key. At the end of the day, what Nigerian content is trying to do is to increase participation of Nigerians in these sectors. So we believe that expatriates should not come to work where Nigerians are available to do the work. It's not a Nigerian thing, it's a global philosophy. There are areas where expatriates are needed. There are areas where expatriates are not needed. So what the law is trying to do, and this is mirrored of the Nigerian Content Act for the oil and gas industry, it's actually trying to create opportunities for Nigerians to participate. Nigerians have traditionally been pushed aside in all these sectors. So today, you see telecom operators fighting hard to get themselves, Nigerian indigenous companies and Nigerians, to be the players in the industry. And they need provisions like that to set up.
Yeah, are we also taking into cognizance certain peculiarities of the sector? For instance, if you're being asked to come in from oil and gas and, you know, say, help us develop this sector, do you see certain peculiarities that could make it, I mean, I would think every sector will have its challenges, but every sector will also have its advantages. What do you see? What would you say is already an advantage here in the power sector?
In the power sector, we had a very traditional base under ECN. ECN, Electric Corporation of Nigeria, had the best engineers in Nigeria. NEPA continued to do that, right? And so they have some residual knowledge. And now that it's gone to the private sector, investments will flow in there. They need so much infrastructural development in power. We need to build new power lines, the generation systems, the distribution systems. All the transmission lines need to be expanded. This needs engineering. This needs infrastructural work. This needs control systems. This needs all sorts of supervisory and quality control arrangements that are also done in the oil and gas industry. So in the oil and gas industry, we've run a program that has trained over 60,000 Nigerians. And it can't employ everybody in the oil and gas industry. So this is a major opportunity to link the oil and gas industry to the power sector. In the same way, the control systems you have in the oil and gas industry can be deployed to switching in the telecom sector. The telecom masts that you see all over the place are fabricated. So the people who fabricate platforms for the oil and gas industry can immediately fabricate towers for telecom, towers and pylons for transmission lines in the power sector. So the linkage is there. Engineering, you don't have somebody that you say, oh, this guy is an electrical engineer for power and an electrical engineer for oil and gas or telecom is an electrical engineer. If he gets skilled up for the oil and gas industry, just by adaptation, you can then spread your knowledge to other sectors, including agriculture.
You know, I see a blossoming, you know, sector or country if only we could do what we should be doing in almost all the sectors. I mean, if we can actually harness and develop the talent we have in the power sector and even in the telecom sector, and marry that with the petroleum industry, and I don't think the issue about gas, about refineries not working at full blast will all be problems. But being someone who's always been there, what do you think we're not getting right that hasn't actually gone through all of these sectors to put them on a better state?
Foundation. The foundation for the oil and gas industry was not built. The foundation for some of these industries were not built. They were pushed onto us by discovery of oil, accident. You begin to just run the thing as an off-the-shelf item, fastest to market, import things, get experts to do the work. So that carried on for too long. The refineries were built. Essentially, a lot of Nigerians participated in building the refineries. But even the culture of maintenance that were adopted, you build a refinery, so you buy spare parts from the man that built the refinery for 2 years up front. And we didn't think at that time, and that was maybe the thoughts of the time, we didn't think of actually creating opportunities for manufacturing some of those spares. There were workshops, all right, but we didn't follow through on making sure that the spares and the parts for these refineries will be manufactured in Nigeria. That's a great opportunity. We know that some countries in the world, when they wanted to do their pipeline network system, set up pipe mills so that the pipes that were used in the pipeline network were delivered from within the country. We didn't do that. But today, it's different. The gas master plan that we're planning to build in Nigeria now, 4 pipe mills are being built. So a substantial proportion of the pipe that will be used for the gas master plan, or that is being used for the gas master, is produced in Nigeria. SCC pipe mill in Abuja is doing that. There are 3 new pipelines that are being built to take up the pipes. That is the philosophy that we must continue to adopt. And that has started in the past 4 years. So if you run this program for about 10 years, you'll find that the culture would be deep-seated in us so that any engineer, any CEO looking to design a new infrastructure is not thinking about going to Japan to import the parts, but is thinking about bringing in facilities so that you can fabricate or build the components here. The FPSO integration project is a $2 billion project. Automatically, you're putting $500 million in building the facilities to do the integration here.
Let me add this before we wrap up. I'm looking at part 4, which talks about transfer of technology.
Yes.
Program for transfer of technology plan. And then B, there says each licensee, A and B, each licensee shall prepare and submit to the Commission an annual technology transfer plan.
Yeah.
And then the plan shall contain details of various technologies deployed by the operator and the proposed modalities for transfer to Nigeria. Will they willingly transfer? I thought they said, no, you have to steal the technology and not just transfer it to people.
No, you don't need to steal it. You need to acquire it.
And they willingly just
write that's why I'm using
template
acquire. And you don't do it by saying, give me this technology in a package. No. It is by saying that they should do these things in Nigeria. When you're building a facility in Nigeria, when you're making a component, when you're making a turbine, like what GE is planning to do in Calabar, when they're doing that, and Nigerians, you have 50 Nigerians working on a project, there is no way they can hide that technology. But if they are doing the work in Florence, for instance, they can select areas in the plant that only certain groups of people can go to. In Nigeria, it's unlikely that they will be able to do that. So as we develop the culture to build more shop floors in Nigeria, to do more component manufacturing in Nigeria, to do more establishments in Nigeria, that's when you begin to see Nigerians take the technology acquire it, adapt it, and maybe even improve on it. It is only when people are working on shop floors that adaptation, that innovation comes. Most of the innovations you've got in the world come from actually participating in doing something. So it was a big, big, big problem for us in Nigeria that over 30, 40, 50 years, and in fact until the last 5 years, maybe, we have been going abroad to do most of our things. Today, everybody in the oil and gas industry knows that to start a project, you must think seriously about local content. You must tell the government where you would do each of the components of that project. And this is moving into the power sector. We are very happy that what has started and been proven to work in the oil and gas sector is now permeating across board in the economy. All
right, Dr. Earnest Nwapa is the Executive Secretary and Chief Executive Officer of the Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you very much.
We'll be back after the break. Don't go away.